there, I'm Lindsay Dunn here for one of my stories, breaking down the second part of Stranger Things Season 5. Joining me today once again is my dear friend and fellow NC film critic and Southeastern film critic, Harrison Martin. Or perhaps I should start calling him Snookum. I can't decide. Welcome back, Harrison.
Hi, Lizzie. I'm not with a librarian, so I don't know why you would call me Snookums, but that
So
was a hilarious scene. My brother-in-law and I laughed out loud. I could tell you, you should be the one who's Snookums. You're the librarian.
Well, I mean, Murray just used it as a weapon against
Hilarious
Mr.
to me.
Clark the entire time. So, just a reminder, everyone, we released a review of part one on December 3rd on the One of My Stories podcast feed. Reminder, the number one of My Stories podcast, where we broke down the first part, and here we are back for part two. So, what were your overall impressions of this part two, Harrison?
So, Volume 2 of Stranger Things Season 5, I did enjoy. I don't know if it was as strong as Volume 1. It really felt more filler-ish. There were a few like big reveals, but nothing too major that we hadn't already been introduced to. The best cliffhanger wasn't episode one. I stayed up late to watch it. So after the cliffhanger of episode one, you had to watch episode two. And then at that point, when there's only one episode left, you finish the third one. So overall, enjoyable. I can't wait to see how it all wraps up in the end. Those are just a quick little thoughts about it.
I liked part two better than part one.
Mm,
If you remember when we discussed part one, there were a lot of things that it felt were retreads of part four. Like plots that were repeating themselves. The triangle between Nancy, Jonathan, and Steve, and
hmm
Hopper and Eleven fighting about how much independence she would have, and Joyce being protective of Will. And it felt very repetitive. And finally, in part two, we start bringing the threads together that have been left hanging. Things that have been set up for a long time that needed to be finished off were done. There was a lot of talking, maybe too much talking, but I felt like when they stopped the talking and went into the action scenes, these very cinematic moments, it is very compelling stuff, like resurrecting the Demogorgon, and then Holly and Max slash Will facing Vecna, and the wormhole scene. When they stop the exposition and the explaining and just paint a portrait of events happening, it's very cinematic. I'm feeling more hope that they're going to land the ending to me than I did after part one. So
See where you're coming
what
from.
do you feel like was more? You said you felt this was more filler than part one.
We didn't get into like no major deaths. We'll go ahead and get that out of the way. No deaths at all, as a matter of fact, which is fine. I don't need people to die to still enjoy the show. I would be happy if everybody survived in the very end. That's more realistic to like the 80s homage, those 80s kids movies where they go on an adventure. Like the kids
Right.
don't die, so nobody needs to die in the show. But like nothing super revealing outside of finding out what the upside down is.
Hmm.
I think that was the biggest reveal we got. We got a little more insight into the Henry Creel's like backstory. I'm not exactly sure why we didn't just get the entire backstory in this part. I think we don't need to hide that anymore. Like they kind of stopped just short of explaining why he is the way he is.
I get what you're saying about like not any characters dying. If anybody dies, I did expect it to be in the big finale. But we also hear more about the military's plan, what they were doing. So
I
there
guess
was
yeah, that is somewhat of a decent reveal, if not almost a retcon, because originally they were tying the kids' powers to what was the CIA drug experiments?
that's like the same trial that was mentioned in Welcome to Derry.
Yeah, they had said that Eleven's mom was in that experiment while she was pregnant, and that's how she got her powers. But
Mm,
they've now changed that to being that they were all injected with Henry Creel's blood. So, and that's fine. And I wish they could have kind of explained it like they thought they were taking drugs, but what was really happening is that they were taking MK Ultra. That is what it was. They had said it was connected to MK Ultra, but that was just a lie to hide what we were really doing. So
hmm.
it is interesting that you would assume that Eleven also got her powers from Henry, like all the other kids, even though she was slightly older, but that her blood is not working. So,
There's this whole thing saying that Eleven's blood is better than anybody else's blood.
oh, did I say 11? I meant 8. They were using eight's blood, and eight's
Right, her
blood
blood
wasn't
is
working.
tainted.
Yeah, eight's, and maybe that has because her powers are like different from all the other kids. She doesn't have like the telekinesis. She does like illusions, which I think is cool. I think it's nice that she has a different power set. But yeah, for some reasons, blood they assume Eleven's blood is just as good as Henry's just because her powers are so strong. How would they not have her DNA already? Like
Hmm.
with Dr. Brenner, if he had her and they had her locked up for basically all her life until she escaped, why did they not already have her DNA to test it out?
Right, that's a good point. You would think they would have all of these samples that they
Yeah,
were
which
they
is
were
why I
collecting
think
stuff
this,
in.
yeah, this is a more of a retcon to try
Hmm.
and tie it together more.
Okay. So when the show opens, we're still in 1987, starting with November 5th, and then we get into November 6th by episode 6. So episode 5 is November 5th, and then once it's episode 6 and 7, that's all November 6th. So episode 8 will also be November 6th because that's the day it all began. When we ended the last part, Will just showed that he had powers. So,
Hmm.
what do you think of how everyone reacted to it? We had his friends, and we also had Joyce, how she reacts to this news.
I think everybody reacted how I would have expected. They all think it's cool. They all like, "Oh, wow, cool. He's a wizard. No, he's a sorcerer or something like
Hmm.
that." Like everybody thought it was neat. And of course, you have the explanation was that I don't have powers technically. I can just tap into Vecna's powers
Hmm.
and use them at my disposal.
About that because I mean that's interesting. People kept saying he's more of a sorcerer than a wizard because his powers are innate, which would mean that they didn't depend on something else. Because I was looking this up, and a wizard gets their powers from years of study, kind of like in the Harry Potter books, they all go to wizard school, they go to Hogwarts and learn how to do it better. But a sorcerer's powers are innate. But yet it's been being set up that Will is just siphoning off of Vecna.
Yeah, I don't think that innate means they're in within you. So it would have to be that the wizard's powers are innate and the sorcerer is pulling them from somewhere else. So basically that's what Will is doing. He's pulling them from someone else because of his previous connection to Vecna. Now, well, I guess if he were to get a blood transfusion, that would make them innate.
Well, that, I mean, just everybody keeps saying that powers are innate, and then someone says, well, "Why does it make a difference?" And they're like, "It makes a difference." So that makes me wonder if the full power, the full spectrum of his powers have yet to be revealed, or something will be revealed about it that we don't know. But the other reaction, so besides the friends and the kind of ongoing joke about sorcerer versus wizard, I thought it was interesting how Joyce reacted. Is that she sort of feels a little bad about the fact that she's been maybe holding him back or not believing in him. And she now seems very willing to let him participate in the plans, and she's trying to kind of make up for lost time.
I don't know. George's kind of annoying in this batch of episodes. I feel like they just kind of needed something for her to do, and her coming up with this plan was their answer to it.
Yeah, she played such an important role in season 1 in
Hmm.
being the mom that was dedicated to her son and was the one that believed he could be brought back. And it's Winona Ryder, so they have to keep her with something to do. So yeah, they have because like the last part, we were both kind of like, now that she's with Hopper, she had a pretty big season in season 4. There was the whole plot to bring Hopper home that she was a big part of.
Hmm.
So yes, now she's more just supporting her son um in the back in the still. They at least gave her a little more to do in this part. All right. So, yeah, let's talk about the military portion, the military and their plot. So we had Dr. K. Lieutenant Sullivan's really out of commission at this point. He's hurt, but we've got Lieutenant Akers still running around.
I'll have to say, honestly, the military aspect of this season is the worst part. They
Mhm.
are the least interesting to me, or at least the most poorly written. Linda Hamilton, who I love Linda Hamilton. I understand why they cast her. I don't
Mhm.
think she's really like into this role. It kind of feels like she's just there to like get the money and to be a famous face. I was talking to my brother-in-law about it, and I feel like a better cast for that role would have been Demi Moore, which is actually who they based Eleven's look off of in season 1. Like when they cast Millie Bobby Brown, they showed her and her mom, G.I. Jane, to convince her to let them shave her head. And I think that would have been a better role for her. And I'm not exactly sure how big Demi Moore is in terms of like height. She's not very big. She's a thinner woman. But like the scene where Linda Hamilton's character like jacks that soldier up on the wall, I'm like, that's not realistic. Come on, you're not gonna do that to him. I understand her like asserting her authority, but they could have done that in
Hmm.
a different way. But like, I would have rather her have been like a scientist working for the military, not a military general. It just doesn't. She does not seem into the role.
Regardless of how uninteresting you think it is, let's at least talk about what their plan is now. We find out that they are stealing Collie's blood and infusing it into pregnant women to produce more Henrys, but blood is not a match. It seems to be hurting and turning against the women that it's being put into. That scene was just horrific. Having her, she says if she known it was on the other side of the door, she never would have tried to leave, which I'm like, really? You just want to sit in there and let people take blood from you? But
Well, she wouldn't have known what was happening. Now she has that guilt that her blood is being used to hurt women like her mom and
mhm.
Jane/Eleven's mom. Like she now has that idea. If she had just escaped normally, she would have run away. Having this information now, she feels like she has to fight, she has to stop it. Because it's not just about her anymore, it's about other people. I understand her plan. It's a typical military plan. Just like I haven't seen it Welcome to Derry. I've seen the first episode. I've been too busy to watch the whole thing. But it's my understanding that in that show, the military is trying to like capture Pennywise so they can use him as like a weapon against like foreign people. And in Stranger Things, they are trying to make more psychic kids use as weapons to fight the Russians. And I just don't know how great of a plan. I understand powerful kids, powerful soldiers. That's a great plan. I feel like in was it season 2 or 3 with the mall? Like the Russians had a better capture the Demogorgons and then use them as your soldiers. Like those are monsters. They're hard to kill. Like capture a bunch of those and have them go fight people for you. That's what they should have done.
Well, it seems like the person they'd really want blood from is Henry, but Vecna doesn't have any more blood left. You mean the Vecna being that? I don't know. He's like skeleton, isn't he? Like he doesn't have.
Skeleton and flesh and I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, they get surprised again. It's like in the last part they got surprised by there's all these demogorgons and then they all, got attacked. And then in this part again, they get surprised by the kids of Hawkins.
Hmm.
All right, so then in the Upside Down, we had Dustin. Well, we had two groups. We'll go ahead and talk about Dustin, Steve, Nancy, and Jonathan. Before you say anything, I want to kind of address something I forgot to say last part, and I felt bad about it later. Is that when we were talking about Nancy, and both of us were talking about that they're just kind of doing this love triangle. But one thing I didn't mention about Nancy that became pretty apparent in part one is that she, in many ways, is the planner of the group. She's the one that organizes the missions and be the point person, the point and command person, which is a very tough role and challenging role when you're the one that's in charge of making a plan. And so there is something more to say about her. I mean, I liked her a lot in season 4. She's shed the schoolgirl image and she's a weapons master now at this point.
Yeah, perfect shot.
Yeah, so
She was taking out military guys. Like, come
yeah.
on.
Yeah, so she's definitely more than just a love interest. So I formal apologies to Natalia Dyer. Yes, Nancy, you deserve better than how I kind of dismissed you last part. So, all right. So in the Upside Down, we got this group that they go to the church where they were supposed to meet Hopper and all that, but they go to Hawkins' lab to find a source of power. Dustin suspects it's the shield generator, and they split into teams, and both groups discover things and they have important conversations. So let's get into it. What did you think of Nancy and Jonathan scenes together?
Nancy and Jonathan's scenes were fine. The unproposal was I didn't quite get what was going on there. But the Duffer Brothers recently came out and said that was a breakup. They had broken up.
Right.
So I guess that kind of breaks apart the love triangle because even Steve is like, no, Nancy is she's just my friend. Like she's a friend. You used to have those, whatever he said to Dustin. So that whole thing is kind of like put to rest now. They're just all friends. They all she dated both of the guys, but she's breaking apart on her own as like this strong, independent woman. And her and Jonathan kind of aired out their grievances, and he told her things that, hey, I don't like when you do this. She said, hey, I don't like when you do this. So clearly those things probably are going to stop now, which kind of shows that maybe even though they like each other, they weren't the best for each other. Just like Steve and her weren't the best for each other. And it's like that whole young puppy love doesn't always work out in the end. And that's a realistic take. One of the few realistic takes that this show is having.
Yeah, Steve was her first love, but
Hmm.
Jonathan was her first trauma bond. You know, when Nancy and Steve first got together, she was really taken by him, but then she discovers there's this upside down, all this stuff going on. The whole thing with Barb happens, and she was dealing with all that, and Steve was ignoring it. She didn't like how he was acting like it didn't matter and just wanted to kind of have fun and continue on with life. Where Jonathan was a lot more going through the same sort of grieving process as she was. And so they had that in common. But yeah, maybe they weren't the best fit. But in order to make that relationship work, they'd been pretending a lot with each other. Their big admission to each other happens inside in a dangerous situation where they have discovered this exotic matter and it melts the ceiling and walls. So you wouldn't think that this would be the best time to have an honest conversation, but because they are going to die or they think they decide to confess to each other everything. For whatever reason, it reminded me of in Star Wars when they're in that garbage compactor
Mm.
and all the garbage is coming in and they're thinking they're going to die, but they end up realizing, oh, we can climb on top of the garbage. But in this case, all this liquid, and because it's exotic matter is, and it's just matter that acts in an unexpected way, so the fact that it was liquid, it became solid, I guess that's part of the part of the mystery, that it can change on a dime.
Yeah, for me, it reminded me of Titanic. That's what I kept thinking about. Like Rose and Jack on that door in the ice cold water.
Right,
And
right.
that's where in my back of my mind I was like, Jonathan's gonna die, isn't he? But again, it's fine that nobody died. But I'm thinking like this is gonna
Yeah.
be a Titanic
It
moment.
was it was Titanic, except both of them fit on top of the table. But yeah, they talk about that being together is safe but suffocating. And she doesn't want to be with Steve either though. So that was an interesting reveal. And they kind of bond over making fun of Steve that he wants 6 kids. So I just thought this was a really well done scene. You wouldn't think it would be so moving, have somebody break up, but it was nice that they were finally honest with each other.
Hmm.
And also, I think kind of realistic how couples often pretend they like stuff temporarily. Hopefully, everybody reveals the truth in the end, but people have to realize that it's okay to like different things.
Hmm. I would agree.
All right, so Dustin and Steve.
I think they finally aired out their grievances to each other as well, just
Mhm.
in a little more physical manner. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed Steve basically telling Dustin, like, yeah, it's sad that Eddie's dead, but it's kind of his fault. Like, I told you guys, don't be heroes. You didn't have to do what he did ended up not mattering anyway. So, and then Dustin kind of, it's a hard pill to swallow. He's like, yeah, he's right, but it is upsetting his friend is still gone, and it's affecting their relationship in the fact that like he in the back of his mind he's like, oh, Steve could die at any time too. I don't want Steve to go,
Mhm.
and he actually saves his life with that whole ladder scene,
Yeah.
which could have been Steve. So I think I enjoyed them. They're finally back on good terms, it seems. So
Mhm.
although I don't think I agree with Steve's like, oh, you wanted that fight with the boys. Like he didn't want that fight. Like they came and jumped him at the graveyard.
Well, I think what he was saying was that if you provoke the bear, you're going to get a reaction. Because he didn't have to keep the thing going. His friends had stood up for him. He could have just been the bigger person and not struck back, but he decided to put this revenge plot. So I don't know. I think a lot of people, including me, I remember the last part I was thinking, is Dustin okay? Because where's the lovable person that we met in the beginning parts? I mean, they've all changed, right? But it felt like he was almost suicidal. It was good that they finally talked because before they were just bickering, and I found that annoying and just no, it's never enjoyable when people just fight, but I thought it was interesting. He says, yeah, when he says that you remember how it is to have friends, and Dustin says, yeah, I remember a good friend that believed in me and was kind to me. And Steve automatically thinks that he's talking about Eddie, but I thought Dustin was talking about Steve, really. Like, I remember when you used to be kind to me and believed in me, but Steve, like, jumps to, yeah, nobody could be as perfect as Eddie. Yeah, I was also thinking, wow, it's admirable that Steve doesn't give Dustin a paddling or something
Hmm.
because when they were fighting, Dustin's fighting him and Steve's trying his best to just keep him from hurting himself. But yeah, it was good to get that. Maybe we should call that lab. Hawkins' lab is the airing of grievances place. That's where you
Hmm.
go to air your grievances.
Hmm.
And he finds out this single source of energy that he's been looking for is holding the entire wall together. But what's behind the wall isn't Vecna and the kids, it's the bridge to the abyss. And Vecna has been hiding this from the group, and now it's revealed. So this is a little bit getting ahead, but I guess I have a question. Does this help them now that? So is that wall then that they were? Is that gone now? I mean, we saw it kind of start to get holes in it, but is the wall now gone?
No, the wall is still there. There is a small hole in it, but yeah, the wall is still there, and it's just a physical version of a wormhole. Normally, wormholes are kind of like you go from point A to point B, and in the wormhole, you just kind of see yourself traveling through it,
Mhm.
like when you go light speed. But this shows if you were just kind of in the wormhole, this version of it is actually physical. So we
Right.
get
I
to
mean,
see the upside down is actually just like a picture of the day the wormhole was created of Hawkins. But in the sky, there is the abyss, planet X or whatever. So there's like two worlds with a sky in the middle. This that other world is actually where 11 sent Henry,
mhm.
and apparently, and Dr. Brenner had her try and like contact him or bring him back, and that's what caused the wormhole, the creation of the upside down.
I
Made a
mean, I know
bridge.
what's behind the wall is the bridge to the abyss, but I was like, I guess I was just
No,
trying to say
what's
we did.
what's behind the wall is the abyss. There, it's outer space. It's nothing. There's nothing on the outside of the wall. Nothingness.
Mm.
So the whole upside down is just a physical wormhole between two planets. If that makes sense.
But it is above the upside down.
Te-
Yes.
Technically, there's no up or down, but yes, it is on the other side.
Yeah, other side. Okay. All right. So let's move to our other upside down crew for this part, which is Hopper, 11, and Collie.
It kind of bothered me that Hopper talks so flippantly about like killing Collie. Collie is she's slightly older than 11, but she's still like a kid. He's like, "Hey, I'll kill her. I'll kill her if she's out of line." I'm like, "Dude, oh, chill." That it was weird. It was weird to hear him say that. It wasn't like he was saying this about some like grown woman. Like at most, Collie's probably like 20, I guess. I guess that's grown, but she's like the same age of like Steve and Nancy in them. I would guess at the eldest.
I mean, I think it's in his character that he's protective of her, and she's not just a child like Mike is and Lucas is and all of these kids. She's a child with powers that he feels could be a bad influence on 11. And he doesn't know her. She's just an other right now. So, yeah, I mean, it's not, maybe he should work a little more on building a bridge, but she's being kind of sus, Harrison.
What do you mean she's being kind of such? She's calling him out on his BS.
We kind of thought that it'd be good for 11 to have some help. And I feel like Collie is giving a little bit of Agent of Chaos vibes. She says, I'm here to make sure this never starts again. And now she's trying to convince 11 to basically kill herself and sacrifice herself for the sake of not making new children. It's an understandable thing, but yeah, I feel like if given the chance, if 11 doesn't go with her plan, that 8 is likely to try to force her hand to make 11 do what she wants. Do you see that?
I didn't get that at all. I just
Oh boy, you have a little bit of a blind spot when it comes to 8.
I don't think why would she try and convince 11 to kill herself? If anything, she wants to kill all the military people that are involved.
No, no, that's what she's telling her, because she's telling her, even if we stop Vecna or we stop the military, we end this or whatever. If like they are the remnants, right? 11 is the perfect match to Henry. Her point is that somebody else will just come along that will try to do the same thing, because there was a Brenner and now there's Dr. K or whatever her name is. Yeah, Dr. K.
I thought they were just saying that killing Henry won't end it for her. Like killing Henry, yeah, let's say it's today, but then they're just going to want her. They need to not only
Right.
stop Henry, they need to also stop the military. That's
Oh
what I
no,
was
no,
taking
no.
from it.
No, she says when they were in the memory place together place, she starts saying like, I'm glad I'm here with you, and she's like, together we can end this, and she wants 11 to eliminate herself, both of them. She wants both of them to kill themselves when it's over.
I did not get that at all.
Wow.
I
Okay, well
was
that's what
not
I
getting
got.
any.
That's her whole point.
I was getting a we need to take out the military.
Yeah, I put down she wants 11 to sacrifice herself so no further copies can be made. And I'm suspicious she'll take 11 out if she doesn't comply. So that's how
She,
I saw it.
I don't know how she would do that. She can't take 11 out. She doesn't have, like, her powers are hallucinations. And
She also said, what else did she say though, Harrison? She said, not all powers, or what did she say? Not all something require powers. And that's when they show her like slicing everyone's throat open.
and the
She's
gun, I guess.
she has
But
the capability of being physically violent.
yeah, they all do. They've all, like, they've all killed, technically, they've all killed innocent people, technically. Everybody in the group.
Yeah, but she doesn't always use powers to accomplish that. She's actually killed people in cold blood with her hands. It makes sense what she's saying, but at the same time, I thought it was ironic because 11 was clearly giving Hopper a bad time because he was going to sacrifice himself. And she talks about, you were going to end your life. I saw it in your eyes. And she gives him a hard time about it because he was doing that without really sharing that with anybody. But I feel like that's what she's being pressured to do by
Hmm.
Kali.
We'll see if Callie becomes a turncoat. I'm not going to put that on her.
Okay, I just looked it up right here. It says she convinces 11 that they must both sacrifice themselves by staying in the Upside Down when the bridge blows, ensuring no more psychic children can be created from their unique blood, even if it means dying with Vecna and the dimension itself. She argues that as long as Elle lives with her powers, others will hunt her to restart the program, making a normal life impossible.
Yeah, that doesn't mean she's going to kill her. And even she said that to Mike too. And Mike said, we're going to go somewhere with a waterfall. Do whatever we have to do to make sure nobody
Yeah,
gets you
he's
again.
being a simple, sweet child. But I'm not saying she's wanting to hurt 11, but I'm saying she says, I'm here to make sure this never starts again. What I'm saying is, if 11 doesn't go with her plan and decide to self eliminate herself or stay in the Upside Down, I'm just afraid that Kali is going to try to force her. She'll say, like, I can't let you go back. You need to stay here or whatever, So that's all I'm saying.
We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to move to the actual abyss. So we have Derek, Holly, Max, Vecna, and all the adorable children.
Yeah, I still don't quite understand what his plan for them is. Like, how is that going to help bridge the worlds? So I'm interested to see how that's going to go down. I do believe we are going to get a redemption for Henry slash Vecna.
You do.
Oh yeah, he's going to be redeemed. That's why they kind of showed a little bit of his backstory, him being a sweet kid, him really kind of trying to help that guy, and that guy was really paranoid because of whatever he was working on. He has done some very evil stuff. I believe it's going to be because he's under like control of the mind, like the mind flayer, the big scary smoke monster. but he will be redeemed, but he will not survive the season. He's one of those characters he can only be redeemed in death. He will do something that will probably save everyone, take out the mind flayer, and he will go with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to work through that too. From what I've come up with, Vecna has attached these kids to spires where he's collecting their energy through their mouths, which is gross, to heighten his own powers. And the kids believe they're in a beautiful house surrounded by toys and good food. And this created a false belief that there was a good Henry that was somehow separate from Vecna. Now I'm talking about how people have been reacting to it. So I said false belief, but I guess it's undecided. There's now this also with the play that there's this belief that there's a good Henry that's somehow separate from Vecna that is trying to protect the kids. And in his mind, obviously, he's doing something that will be good for everyone, or at least good for the chosen. But there doesn't seem to be a good Henry underneath to me at this point. Of course, then we get the speech from Max that underneath he's still human, which she says to Will. And so, yeah, I think, and I was on board with this. Oh, maybe Vecna's going to have a redemption arc, but now I'm just less sure because when people were watching the trailer for this part, there's the scene where Holly and Max are going to escape from her house and he comes down the stairs and his head rotates around and he's kind of going back and forth between Henry and Juan. And people were like, oh, he's fighting with himself to be, the good Henry. Now we see that Henry is actually a little more evil than he put on too in front of the kids. I mean, how he's being kind of devious and threatening Derek and say
Manipulative.
he's going to kill his parents and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that for a little bit that it was going to be both like that he had like a good like the human version of him that we
Mhm.
saw in that house. I was like, oh, so that's like the real him that's kind of trapped in the under this evil spell,
Yeah.
and he's really thinking he's helping these kids by protecting them from his bad half. But no, it is just him.
Mhm.
That's how he's like putting the kids at ease, and he's being very manipulative. But I do think he is altered somehow. I think it's going to be Holly who is going to be the one that brings the good out of him. Like Luke
Mhm.
brought out the good in Darth Vader at the end, and then of course Darth Vader dies because you're redeemed and then you die. I think it's going to be that type of situation. Holly's going to be like, I saw you try to help that guy when you were a kid. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what happened to you afterwards, but you don't have to do this. And then they are going to stop the mind flayer together.
Yeah. I mean, there was the scene where she was really upset by seeing the man try to kill Henry, and she kept saying he was trying to help him, just trying to help him. Can you remind me, how was he trying to help him? I don't remember. I mean, I know they went down the mine shaft. The man had like the suitcase. How was he trying to help him?
The guy had looked like he had probably fallen down the mine shaft,
Mm-hmm.
and because he was lying down and he looked like he was injured, he had like a little bit of blood on his head. And Henry, I guess, because he was like a Boy Scout or whatever, he was down there. He probably found him, was like, "Hey, let me help you out, sir. Let me help you." Like he was just trying to like inching toward him, and the guy was paranoid because clearly
Mm-hmm.
whatever he had,
Right.
either he stole from the government or he wasn't supposed to have, or somebody was after him, and like shot at Henry, shot him in the hand,
Mm-hmm.
like, and that freaked Henry out. And even then, which was pretty gangster, like he's just like, I would have been crying. I would have been like, "Oh, you shot me." He was just kind of like, "Okay, you shot me in the hand. Sir, it's okay." And then when he was about to shoot him again is when he knocked the gun out of his hand and
Yeah.
then ended up bashing his head in with the rock. Yeah, we're gonna find out whatever he opened, whatever was in that case is clearly what changed him forever.
Yeah. I can't remember. Have you seen the show Dark?
I have not, but I've seen a lot of comparisons online. Is there like exotic matter in Dark too?
Yeah,
Like they were
there's
saying,
they call it the God particle.
yeah, they were saying Stranger Things, Dark, and Arcane all have the same little sphere exotic matter thing.
Hmm. Well,
So
also there's a scene where a person kills another person with a rock with their hand, just exactly like this. I wouldn't say that these shows, when Stranger Things came out and season one finished, Dark was a watch alike, and the shows start very similarly with missing children. There's kids on bikes. There's a yellow raincoat. So there's some similarities. This season has there's been some other comparisons drawn, especially with The Rock. But yeah, back to these characters here.
Yeah, the kids, and I think one, I thought Derek was gonna like turn and be like, "You're not gonna do anything to my family. She's
Hmm.
right. He's lying to us." But
Yeah,
no, he was scared and didn't do anything.
yeah.
And at the same time, her escaping, like when her, we kind of skipped over the whole her and Max thing.
We're
Her and
not
Max escape.
skipping. We had there were lots to discuss with this group.
Okay, but the way that they are connected to Vecna and through like that beating heart that's above him.
Hmm.
I think that that's part of my theory that I don't think he's the bad guy. I think they are inside the physical version of the Mind Flayer, and the Mind Flayer is boosting Henry slash Vecna's powers and also going into these kids because he has taken over whatever this planet is. Because they did explain the Demogorgons, the Demobats, the Demodogs, they all originally come from this planet, the Vines, and he, this being, the Mind Flayer, now wants to come to Earth and take it over.
Well, something interesting, a comparison, people have said that Will could be the other one, that he's siphoning Vecna's powers, but that makes me think that maybe Vecna is siphoning his powers. If they're supposed to be alike, maybe, and if this thought is correct that the Mind Flayer is using Vecna like a puppet and Will is in there too. It just makes me think of
Maybe that's
like
it. Maybe
he's
they,
yeah.
that's how you get the happy ending. Like 8 and 11, they won't be hunted because once they take out the Mind Flayer, all of they're all siphoning powers from the Mind Flayer. So once they take out the Mind Flayer, they won't have powers anymore. And if they don't have powers anymore, the military has no need for them. So I think that might be the answer.
Something I saw online that they were saying like, "Oh, why does Henry have these kids and here in this nice house?" And they were that was confusing to everybody. But I was like, "Oh, this just reminds me of that movie Escape to Witch Mountain." I don't know if you ever saw that movie. In the movie, there's these children that are witches, Tessa and Tommy, and it turns out that these kids are the descendants of aliens, right? And this gets discovered by a wealthy man that wants to use their powers, and he brings them to his fancy house, and this playroom is ridiculous. When you go in, it has a merry-go-round, it has all these fancy beds, and what it had was a ice cream parlor, and you could pull a lever down and get an ice cream sundae. I was like, this is very impractical, but it was a
Well,
really cool
yeah,
playroom. And what it does is it keeps kids dumb and thinking everything's great because they
it's like
feel
the
like,
whole Hansel and Gretel. You go to the house made of candy and you're happy. You don't know you're being duped.
right. So Max and Holly escape from this, and they plan to take a memory maze from the first memory to the memory where he captured her, he being Vecna and her being Holly, to find an escape route. And they go to the basement of her house, and then the library, the merry-go-round on the playground, her bedroom, and finally the kitchen where she's dragged off. Vecna intervenes after he catches Derek, and I thought it was one of the coolest scenes in the show in this part when Will helps them and takes control of Vecna temporarily.
I think again, I really enjoy the scene where they kind of slightly touch on young Henry's origins. I like them going through the maze of memories, and of course, the escape. Got the Kate Bush playing
Hmm.
in the aftermath. Holly falling and Max waking up was handled very well. That was a very thrilling scene with Max in the hospital, and also the fact that and they kind of go through this even more in season. Like she's in a wheelchair. She's like, "Hey, you've been in a coma for like almost 2 years. You can't move." Like I feel like in other movies, like she'd be up after an hour walking around.
Okay, I want to I want to talk about after Max wakes up a little bit further down. But here we can talk about Max when she's in the abyss. But yeah, in this part,
Yeah,
she's been stuck, has been trying to get out, and in this world, she's kind of the wise person that's been here a long time. And here comes along Holly, who sort of seems to effortlessly discover all the things that Max couldn't. which doesn't mean that Holly's smarter than her, but sometimes when you're, and Max, she was by herself, right? So she had nobody to brainstorm with, and she was also really bummed that she was there away from her friends. But it just goes to show that sometimes it takes, just a new perspective or new blood, new energy to come in and have a new thought that you hadn't thought of.
Yeah, and also some luck. Like when Holly was telling her that story about her uncle who liked to take his little metal detector and look for stuff and mostly found junk. And then one day some guy finds like a tin can full of rare coins that are worth millions of dollars. Just sometimes a little
Hmm.
luck. Luckily, Holly was very interested in Henry's Boy Scout stuff. She got the not a
Spyglass.
periscope, but the spyglass, his little thing, ascot thing. And if she had not grabbed that, she would not have known to look for that shape.
Hmm.
So a little bit of luck
And she also had a
as well.
fireplace poker. Yeah,
How does she fit that in there? I feel like she just pulled that out of nowhere.
I personally thought Holly Wheeler was such a cool character. Or is such a cool character. I saw a lot of complaints online, people saying, why are they spending so much time on Holly? But when she's not scared, she's one of the most effortlessly cool characters in the show at this point. Her outfit, her gadgets, the spyglass, and just how she kind of comes in and says, "Oh, you haven't looked out here yet, have you? Let's go look." And she just had a different perspective. So, yeah, I just think I like her look. I'm like, man, I wish I had this outfit. I would totally wear that outfit with the pinafore. I
I
mean,
think they're hoping for,
yeah.
Halloween costumes next year.
But then you get this terrible scene. It wasn't really cool of Max to. I feel like she misled Holly a little bit with this plan because she kept saying, "You're almost home, you're almost home." But then when push comes to shove, it's like, "Hey, you can't come with me. You gotta like find your own way back." She kind of threw that on her last minute. So that is a little that felt a little unfair. But then she has this speech, and yes, everybody was like, "Why are you guys talking right now? Run, get out." But she's kind of strengthened by Mac through this speech where she tells her, "Okay, even though you feel like you're a coward, you're the one that saved me and is helping me get out." She then unfortunately gets returned to Henry's claws, and there's this scene where she's bullied by the kids, which I thought was terrifying and very upsetting.
That was a cool scene. She grabbed that, what was it, a radio, and just smacks that girl in the face. I was like,
Yeah,
wow.
she tries to escape, but then they all surround her and pull on her medallion. That was so
Yeah,
sad. I mean, last season we had the scene where the kids all bullied Eleven at the skating rink, and this kind of reminded me of that, but it felt bad. She's gotten her confidence boosted by this thing she's been through with Max, and then she's kind of alone here.
yeah,
Yeah, Vecna also, again, we had the scenes with him and Will, and it's pretty cool when he pushes Will out of his mind. I like that
yeah.
scene.
I think, yeah,
And yeah, I put the same thing about Holly, that she has great compassion for Henry, and this will factor in later. Well, before we move on to Hawkins, I wanted to take a brief interlude to discuss snacks. There's this interesting scene where they all fuel their brain, and that's when they come up with their plans. So, what are your brain starting snacks?
I do not know if that coffee currently now with three
Coffee.
kids. Three kids, it is coffee, but that was a very interesting scene, seeing all the, old logos, the old school Doritos.
Hmm.
That was fun. What was the one thing?
There was bugles. Erica grabs a
Yeah,
juice box. Lucas is making
corn. Yeah,
popcorn. And I was like, really? When was microwave popcorn created? I, I feel like we didn't get a microwave. I don't think we had a microwave in the 80s. So not everybody had it, but I guess this is a radio station. They're going to have a
yeah.
microwave.
I think microwave popcorn is old, but most people use like what's it like Jiffy Pop
Jiffy Pop, or I have the Whirly Pop.
on the stove.
Hmm.
Whirly Pop on it.
It's a pot with a crank, stirs the popcorn.
Yeah, it became a commercial probably like in the early '80s, so it would have been like a newer thing then.
Hmm. Yeah, but the microwaves were really big, so I wasn't sure if, yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely a popcorn person, but if I'm in if I'm on the road, I will on occasion get, I think they're called combos.
I love a good pizza combo or a nacho cheese combo. Those are good.
Yeah, the nacho cheese that has pretzels around it. These are snacks
Yeah.
I only get when I'm on the road. I never buy them in real life, but
And
yeah, those are
and now
good.
that you yeah, now that you actually mentioned snacks, this would have been a perfect scene when they were getting all these snacks. First of all, was 11 there?
No,
No.
they were
Okay.
still. It was when they were coming up with the
Yeah.
plan to.
Well, yeah, well, whether she was there or not, that would have been a perfect scene to have some Eggos show up. Because that was the whole thing about her was that how much she loved Eggos. And I feel like they've kind of thrown that away. But
Hmm.
that's like that will be a nice callback to the first season. And hopefully it still happens that, something with her and Eggos comes
I don't
back.
think we need to have egos.
We need to have Eggos. That was such a sweet thing, how much she just loved getting frozen Eggos when she was a child.
Yeah, I mean, I think they mentioned it in part one when they're doing the training, and she's like, let me take one more stab at it. The obstacle course he set up, and he's like, I've got Egos, and we can watch reruns of something or other on TV. So it's brought up, but yeah, we're trying to get some new product placement going here, Harrison. Like last season they had Surfer Boy Pizza. They're not going to bring that up again.
Is that real?
It's a brand they created. You can get it at Walmart. You can buy Surfer Boy pizza. It's pretty good. I've had it.
That's right.
All right, so we're in Hawkins now. So we're gonna talk about. I have Karen Wheeler and Ted Wheeler. Ted Wheeler, he's just gone now, I guess. I thought they were both in the hospital recovering.
They are both, but they're not necessarily in the same. He's out. He's out. She luckily woke up, is what it is. She needs to still be in the bed. That was a good scene for her.
Right.
They needed to write the characters out of the situation that they wrote them in. What are we gonna do? Oh, what if Karen wakes up and then saves them? All
Hmm.
right, and that's what they did. There was nobody else who could have gotten there in time, and she kind of knows what's going on. The dad doesn't really know, so having him do it wouldn't have made as much sense. So having Karen do it, I think, worked out well.
Yeah. I was wondering if the oxygen tank scene that she has is a callback to something. Because they have so many Easter eggs and callbacks, but I don't think that is one. She puts an oxygen tank in the dryer, which I'm like going, when did she have time to do that? We didn't see her put an oxygen tank in a dryer, but okay. Saves the kid's life, and then they say, Mom, go back to bed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like she needs it.
Yeah. All right, so now we're going to move on to Vicky and Robin.
I think her thinking Robin was on drugs because she was taking the medicine. That was funny. And then of course the reveal that we all knew was coming. She's like, "Oh, it's all real. I'm sorry, I thought you were on drugs." I thought I think the actress, I think she played that part well. I think that
Hmm.
was a great scene. Overall, their relationship has taken like a back seat this season. But again, I like how the Duffer brothers, Sean Levy, and all people involved, they are finding things for people to do even if it's only one episode. They're like, okay, we got Vicky here. What are we gonna have her do? Okay, we're gonna have her have this whole situation with Robin. They're finding things for people to do to make them interesting. They're not just there and gone. Also, and I'm just gonna skip ahead here, in bringing back the middle school science teacher and giving him something to do. What's his name again? Mr. Schnookums. Snookums.
Mr.
Like
Clark.
giving him something to, and he's done a lot more than I thought he would. I thought he was gonna help them with the thing, and then he was gone. He's still there. Like
Right. We're gonna get to
I
him in a minute, but I'm gonna I want to have my turn to talk about Vicky and Robin before you
go
before you
ahead.
go ahead.
Go to
Oh, yeah. It was cute that she was like, "Yeah, you're on drugs." And this actress and Amy Beth McNulty, I actually have seen her in a pretty big role. She did the newest Anne of Green Gables adaptation that's on Netflix. I think it's just called Anne with an E, maybe. But she
Mhm.
plays Anne. If you're familiar with that book series, have you watched that with Jen?
I have not. My wife's family, they know of it, and
Hmm.
they were bringing it up for like a little bit. Not the new show, like I guess the old movie or whatever.
Right.
And so for the longest time, I thought they were saying Anna Green Gables. I thought her name was Anna Green Gables and not Anna. So I kept saying like, "Hey, Anna Green Gables, they're making a new show." She's like, "What? Is her name not Anna Green Gables?" They're like, "No, it's Anne of Green Gables." So
Yeah. The
that's smart.
the one that almost everybody's seen, Anne of Green Gables, the original one, is when they used to have these long campaigns to earn money for a particular television network, and I can't remember which one. In order to watch the series, you would have to get on the TV, they'd show a part, and then they'd have people answering phones and collecting money for the network because they're showing wonderful programs like Anna Green Gables. But anyway, they remade this series for Netflix. This actress who plays Vicky plays Anne, and she's very good in it. Let's see. So besides their scenes together, yes, they're continuing their romance. I guess I thought where it could have led was just Vicky not believing her and then they would end the relationship. But she ends up going with them, and then Robin has a couple scenes with characters, like she has one with Will where they revisit their conversation they had, and then she also has this scene where she explains to, I guess, Mike and Lucas that Will, Max, and Holly are in a trance, imprisoned in Vecna's mind, and she uses records to represent the people. I thought that
And
was.
the Kate Bush record was a nice touch for Max.
Yeah, and Tiffany for Holly because that was the record she was playing, and then Will has the Clash. Should I stay or should I go? Which is a
Yeah.
big scene.
And back, speaking of Holly and Max, going back a little bit,
Hmm.
Holly, when Max was giving her that speech saying, I don't have Kate Bush. I don't know Kate Bush. That was great. I loved that line. I was sitting there laughing. It just, that was funny. A funny delivery by her. Like, I don't know Kate Bush. What am I gonna get out?
Right. But
So,
she also says,
yeah,
"I don't have a boyfriend," and
yeah.
it's really that was I enjoyed those scenes from a acting perspective. I thought it was all kind of sad. Like I was like, "Oh, you're going to leave this little girl here by herself." And when Max is going to wake up, she's going to be with somebody that loves her. When Holly wakes up, she's being tortured by Vecna. Fun. So that, it seemed unfortunate the way that had to go down. But they had to figure out a way to keep Holly from going home. I guess that'd be too much goodness. They need to keep the tension going with wanting to save Holly.
Mhm.
Okay, so now we're going to move to Erica, Mr. Clark, and Murray. Yeah, one of the delightful things I think about Stranger Things is they do sometimes put these unexpected combinations of people together. Like last part, we had Robin and Will having some scenes together. Those are two characters that have never interacted much. But this combination was pure gold and something we needed to bring the comic relief. Is Erica going to collect Mr. Clark and Murray being the one that's with him, because Murray is so good. He had this energy with Hopper and then with Alexi and just with different people. He always has that buddy comedy energy with people. So I guess they did it with him and Mr. Clark this time. And you were starting to talk about Mr. Clark and I cut you off, but go ahead. Anything else you want to say about him?
Just saying, one, we found out he's, with the librarian, which is neat. I'm sure you like that. And two, yeah, just they gave him a lot more to do. I thought him coming up with a way to track Dustin was going to be the end of his major screen time this season, but no, he
Hmm.
sticks around. Like
Yeah.
even when they go into the Upside Down, like he didn't need to be there, but they took him down there with him anyway. Like he
Hmm.
could have stayed up there with Max and uh Lucas, but yeah, I like that he has something to do this season, and he's always been like one of my favorite characters. That just kind of like, he was there season one, just kind of like popped in for a scene in season two, same thing season three, wasn't there in season four, and now he's back, and it's pretty great.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I agreed. I just thought it was funny every time Murray said Snookums, and then one part he didn't say Snookums, and I was like, oh, he should have thrown a Snookums in, and then he said it like 5 seconds later. So they were saving it up for the next punchline. I thought that was funny too. They had the scene with Erica and Lucas, and they both come up with plans at the same time while they're eating snacks. And also, it's kind of nice to have an adult. He's another one of the adults, an adult scientist that is joining in, holding machines, making gates go up. So yes, we're glad you've joined the group. So now we're gonna move into our last group, and we're going to put Lucas in here. We're going to bring Max back in for the part where she's awake. Mike, Joyce, and Will.
Just all of them at the radio station.
Well, any part that they experienced in Hawkins. So I'll go ahead and start. Will's got these feelings of guilt about not being able to stop Vecna from capturing the kids. That's the first thing we see with him. And then he and Robin have a follow-up conversation where she shares that she came out to Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And
Season 2, everybody remembers that.
yeah.
Season 3 or 2? The mall season. Yeah,
Yeah, the
everybody
mall
remembers that.
season. So and I thought it was funny how he kind of reacted to that. He's like, "Wait, you came out to Steve? Our
Yeah,
Steve?" So this group, the group in Hawkins, is the one that comes up with these two plans to have Will face Vecna. One is to resurrect the Demogorgon, which is crazy, and the other is to have Mr. Clark build another telemetry tracker. And the Frankenstein Demogorgon happens first, and it works, and Will's able to temporarily delay Vecna. And I felt kind of sorry for this Demogorgon because first he has his limbs broken by Will, and then he has to be resurrected again, only to be used and then electro roasted. I mean, if these guys have consciousness, I just really feel bad for that Demogorgon.
they're like a hive mind, so it
Yeah.
is.
Okay. Will is using this plan and ends up back in Vecna's mind when he passes out. And then Vecna terrorizes Will about his thoughts of his friends and family abandoning him. But 11 finds him and brings him out again, which is a nice repeat to season 1, where 11 is finding Will in the Upside Down. So she does this again. After that, basically he has his big coming out scene to his friends. So
Yeah,
what did you think about his arc, and especially what did you think about the coming out scene?
I think Will saving Holly and Max, that whole scene, that was great. Them doing the whole zombie Demogorgon for him to tap back into the hive mind. That worked out well. The coming out scene I didn't think was necessary because if I remember correctly, like they know he's gay. Like they know that Will is different from the rest of them. They had a big thing about it last season where Mike says it's not our fault you don't like girls.
Mhm.
Like they know, and they're still his friends. They still love him. They still hang out with him. They all know. Not that I don't know. I don't think the scene was necessary. I don't think it needed to go on as long as it did.
Mhm.
Like it's like they're also explaining it to the audience, but the audience knows too. Like the actor has come out in public. Like everybody knows. So they could have like started it, and then like I had my brother-in-law. He said he think the scene would have been better if like it like a couple minutes into it, Murray's just like kid, we know, like nobody, we all love you. It's still good. Like, and then that just ends it prematurely.
Mhm.
Like, I think they made like a big deal about it, and it kind of takes away from the moment. It drags out, is really long, and if it's just a choice they made, hey, we really want to do this, sure. I just don't think they needed to make that choice at this moment, considering the fact that this is not new information to anybody. So, like, and again, and I've heard they should have focused it more on like, hey, I know you guys know, like, I'm gay. I've been talking to Robin, but what I've been dealing with is like Beckner was trying to use that against me, saying that you were all going to leave
Mhm.
me, even though we're cool now. That in the future you guys are going to just disappear from my life. They should have focused more on that aspect of it. That Beckner's the bad guy who was trying to use Will's identity against him instead of this whole, hey, you guys didn't know this, but I'm gay. It's like, no, they knew. Everybody knew. It's not, yeah. It didn't have
Yeah,
any weight to me.
yeah, I like his arc and him continuing to explore his powers and seeing him temporarily stop Vecna in his tracks was really cool and cinematic. I agree. I feel like having a coming out scene where everybody's sitting around. When it first started, I was really just kind of cringing, like, oh, it felt a lot like overkill. And I still feel that way. And I feel like there was a lot of pressure, though, put on them to somehow make sure they address his sexuality. The one thing that did work about it, though, that or at least softened the level of cringe it could have had, was I really liked how they filmed it, where he's struggling to put his words together and he's not really making the point that he's trying to make. He's kind of saying, we all like this and we all like that, and kind of not mentioning the point. But um, they do this nice editing where they see Jonathan kind of looking at him with pride, and then Robin encouraging him too. Because those are two people that he's had meaningful conversations with about this, where it was not fully addressed, but everybody kind of knew what they were talking about. So I liked those two characters, the way they reacted to the news. But yeah, having everybody sit down and have a conversation about it, especially when they're on their way to save the world, felt a little awkward. I think it could have been, if they wanted to have him come out, it could have been done differently. Like maybe he's having an argument with somebody and he says something that doesn't make sense, and they're like, "What do you mean?" And then he's like, he showed me you guys are all going to leave me. And then I think that could have been meaningful, or written in a different way, and still end up in the same place with everybody hugging him, or starting it a little more in an organic way. But it did feel very unnatural that this would happen. The only reason that I could give it a pass is I feel like they're setting up this fact that this hiding that Will's been doing of his sexuality to in the favor of blending in is maybe the one thing that's holding him back from not being able to fully embrace his powers. And now that he's supported by everybody, then maybe that's the last thing keeping him from being able to fully be himself. And because he says, "I'm not afraid." I want to show him I'm not afraid anymore. So
Hmm.
he can't use those invasive thoughts anymore that Vecna's been putting into his mind. So it can kind of work for that reason. But overall, I feel like it was a little overkill. And, but I'm sure a lot of people appreciate it being in there.
I'd
I
agree.
don't know. Okay, so they have this new plan now that Hopper's original suggestion is that they find a helicopter and fly it up to the abyss and kill Vecna. Sure, sounds really easy. So the second plan is proposed is Steve says to use the radio tower as a beanstalk to climb up into the abyss, and Eight's gonna go, and Will also. So did this plan make any sense to you? Because I was having a hard time following what they want to do.
Yeah, so basically Hawkins is at the top, the Abyss is at the bottom, or whichever way, it doesn't really matter where they are. They're like this far apart. And Vecna wants to bring them together like this to basically create like a new world.
Mhm.
So the plan is to wait for Vecna to get like this close, so that makes it easier for them to get from Hawkins to the Abyss without having to like fly. They can just climb up the radio pole and just jump down, and then
Right.
they will save the kids and then blow up somehow, stop, the Abyss from colliding with Earth. So, I mean, the plan makes sense. I'm not quite sure how they're going to get that done, but we'll see how it all pans out. It's going to make for a great finale. They did show that teaser where, like, it looks like somebody pointed out, like, there's like a dragon, like a Demi-dragon. I'm sure, yeah, we'll see the whole, basically the movie of how it ends and if this
Yeah.
plan succeeds. I don't think it will, but I think they're still gonna, something's gonna happen that is gonna allow it to work.
Now, are you going to see it in the theater, Harrison?
I would like to, but
Probably
we'll
not.
see.
Okay.
Yeah, I got this huge TV now in this new house. We got an 86 incher back there. Oh, it's dark. I don't know if you can see that. So it's probably gonna be watched on that.
Okay.
Surround sound too.
Well, I've got my tickets for New Year's Eve. Okay. All right, so where do we stand now? After reclaiming Holly, Vecna Henry 1 had a family dinner with all the kids, including Holly, and tranced them all up. I don't know what's happening now. It looked like it reminded me of when he was a little boy and he did that to his mom, except they didn't rise out of their chairs and broken limbs. But since they're all really, we know they're all on the spire having their brains sucked out. It was a little unclear why he was doing that at the dinner table. Did you understand that at all?
Nope, they just I don't know what's going on. He's now making them one hive mind. Like
Mm,
I said, I don't really understand how him giving abilities to the kids will help him bring the worlds together. So unless it just makes him more powerful
that's what I think it is.
for the mind, but like we'll see. I'm not quite sure how this is
Yeah,
ending, but I'll be here for it to watch.
yeah. And then Kali, 11, and Will are ready to team up, making our 20 as predicted. And okay, so characters. What characters stood out to you in this part? Who do you want to award?
Snookums. That I'm glad that he got more screen time. Max, Holly. That's it. Those are the most enjoyable characters of this go around.
Yeah, I put Noah, Holly, and the combo of Mr. Clark and Murray. It would not be as funny if it was just one of them, but the two of them together are just classic. Okay. So anything else you want to talk about before we end this discussion?
So before we end the discussion, what I'd like to do is give a prediction. And my prediction is, like I said earlier on in this discussion, I don't think anybody's gonna die. I think we've all been like preparing ourselves for characters to die in the finale because a lot of times that happens. But I think all of these people are going to live. I don't think they want any bad blood with the audience at the end. Like Barb wasn't even a major character in season one, but her death hit everybody hard and nobody liked it. So I think none of like the main characters gonna die. Linda Hamilton's character, she might die. Vecna might die. Like villains, yeah, I can see them dying, but I don't see any of the main characters dying. I could be wrong. I think everybody's gonna live, and I'm pretty sure since they're showing this in the theaters there's going to be a post-credit scene, and I think that post-credit scene is going to lead into what their next show is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
which they are only going to executive produce and write the story bible for it. They are not going to be like too actively involved in it. They're just going to make sure it's on the right path. So
Yeah. I mean, if Henry Vecna is gonna have a redemption arc, he's definitely gonna die because that's part of the thing that will bring him redemption because he's done too much. He's seen too much. He can't like go on and have a normal life
yeah,
after
it's
that.
The Darth Vader,
Yeah.
yeah, he's done.
But yeah, maybe you're right. I don't know. I would they one thing they said was that think Back to the Future. That's one of the things the Duffer Brothers said, and I wonder if there's more to come with that. With in the last part in the finale, if there's going to be more of a tie-in. I've only seen Back to the Future once, so
Really, I've seen this.
I
Well,
don't know a lot about it except for yeah. Go ahead, spoil
Back
it
to
for
the Future, I can spoil it for you. Well, you've already seen it, so I'm not spoiling it for you. I'm reminding
me.
you. In Back to the Future, in the first movie, Marty changed the past. The future he is in, or the present that he's in at the end of the first movie, is technically not his present. It is a different, better present than that he was living in before. His family's doing better, they're more well off, his parents are happier. So, and that is the actor who played the dad. I can't remember his name, but he's been in a lot of movies. That actor, that's the reason he didn't come back for the sequels, and they could only use him by like repurposing footage because he did not like the message that the director was putting out there. Like, no, your life needs to be better. You need to have changed something. It is not like you need to be happy with the way your life is now, like, or trying to make it better. It's like, no, you need money to be happy and a big truck, which is what he got in the alternate present he made for himself. He got that truck he wanted that he couldn't get before because his family didn't have enough money. So maybe they changed the past. Will was never taken. Everybody lives happily ever after. There was never an upside down, but they retained the memories of their adventure before they changed time.
Mm-hmm. I think that would be such a cheat for whatever reason. If that's the solution that they change the past and all this stuff never happened, I feel like that would be so cheap. But
I mean, that would be a way of you've had the full story. It did happen. Barb comes back to life. Billy comes back to life. Bob comes back to life. And you know what? I would be happy with that. I would be happy with them saying we're gonna change the past and everybody comes back to life, but they keep the memories. So like the events still happen, but they're in a new timeline basically. However far back they change it, that's the only way that Vecna can be redeemed. What if that's his plan? He's like, I want to have this not happen to me. That his plan all along was to make sure that he never gets infected and becomes what he becomes, and he lives a normal life. And kind of like the end of Jumanji, like when they see Robin Williams' character as an adult, and they're like, hey, don't do that. Don't do tell your dad not to go to work that day or whatever. So
I could see him dying would be one solution. Another would be that he's stuck in the dream world because he seems to like it. He keeps going back to his house, right? Like that was where he lived with his parents, and it wasn't necessarily a happy childhood. Obviously, he was upset enough to do some really bad things, but there's something about it that he keeps going back to it, and maybe he gets to live in the Creel house for the rest of existence, sort of pretending that that's reality.
Maybe.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it all resolves, but yeah, I don't think I would find that satisfying to say everybody who died is now coming back to life because
Well, it's
yeah.
only Barb, Bob, and Billy. It's only three major
Yeah,
people.
but Joyce
Or
is
and
with
Renner.
they're just like it's so that makes it so complicated. Like Joyce is with Hopper now. So what are we gonna do with poor Bob? And all these sacrifices, all these things people did that were heroic, they sort of get canceled out. It's like they didn't matter. I don't know. But we shall see. We shall see. Yeah. Did you have any other predictions?
No.
We've already said a couple,
Did I
that
say that there's gonna be a
Holly
post
that
credit scene?
you said it would be post credit scene.
The post credit scene that's gonna tease the next series. That's basically it. That's the only
I would like the post credit scene, if it's going to exist, to be Joyce and Hopper finally at Enzo's eating breadsticks. I mean, I never
that
did get that scene.
we did never get that. You're right. So that would be fun.
But yeah, I think you're right that Holly will somehow, you know, bring out the empathy or the desire to do something good from Henry. Of course, who knows what he did to these kids, but if he's able to have a conversation with Holly again, then maybe that will be turned around. Okay, well, thank you, Harrison. Is there anything you want to promote?
As always, you can check me out on all the social medias at Flixfrog at MovieGuru23 for my personal stuff. You can check out the uh, website, flipfrogllc.com/Flixfrog. I got a lot of movie and TV reviews there. I am a little behind right now. Like I said, I got three kids, another one on the way, and I'm super tired from moving into this house. I'm working on getting caught up. Just bear with me. And all this is also on YouTube at Flixfrog there. So check me out.
And you can find me at oneofmystories.com. That's the number one of my stories.com, or on Twitter, Blue Sky, all the socials at one of my stories. So thank you so much for joining us for this wrap up of part 2 of season 5. And we'll see you soon for the wrap up of the finale. Bye, everybody.